Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike O'Brien, and in this video, I'll be showing you step-by-step how to set up and use SendInBlue, which is a very popular way to manage essentially any type of email or text contacts, whether that is from getting the contacts, growing the lists, having landing pages, sending emails, or even email and text automations where a certain trigger might cause certain things. It could be a welcome email, it could be a 7-day email sequence that goes out. There's a lot of options, really endless options actually, and I'll show you all of that throughout this video. Keep in mind, this is a tutorial for beginners, so I'll show you from the very beginning of setting up your account, through the process of all of that, and all the way to the end of looking at your analytics and figuring out how to better manage your emails to make sure that you can find success in this space. And to be clear, this is something that I think is very important for really any digital marketing strategy. Of course, social media and ads and organic blog stuff, like a lot of that is important, but no matter what you're really focusing on, a good email list can really go a long way, from promoting new products to promoting videos or blog posts. Emails are in people's face. People are going to see their email every day, and a good email campaign can really go a long way. So that's why I want to show you how to use SendInBlue today. And one of the reasons I like SendInBlue compared to a lot of others out there is because, unlike so many other email management softwares, SendInBlue doesn't charge by the contacts you have. So you can have an infinite number of contacts essentially and not pay anything at all, except when you send emails, which I think is a great way, especially for smaller creators, to not have to worry about growing their list and paying a lot of money every month. It's just a really easy way to manage everything. And of course, as you scale, this can scale with you, and you have a lot of functionality with the premium platform as well. Now, with that being said, let's head over to my laptop right now, and I want to show you guys how to get started, and we'll go from there. So the first thing we want to do is there's a link in the top of the description. If you go down and click on that link, it'll make sure we all start off in the same place, or as you see right here, you can type in santrelmedia.com/sendinblue. And like I said, click enter. It doesn't matter what browser you're using, by the way. You can do this from any computer in the world, and just accessing SendInBlue should be very, very easy. All right, now from that landing page, you'll see right here that we have the big blue button on the top right that says sign up for free. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So click on that button. We're gonna type in our company name, our email, and of course our password as well. So I'm just gonna say company name is Mike, or I was gonna say Santrel Media. And of course, you can also sign in with Google, as you saw on the bottom. That might be an easier way to not have to remember your password. But once you do that, it'll go and have you check your email to make sure you can verify your email. And then once you click on the little verification button, we'll be able to go. Okay, so that should take you to a page that looks something like this. And here we're going to type in our first name, last name, phone number. And then lastly, they're going to ask a couple questions about the team size, like how many contacts you have. You're going to import them, that you probably want to type that in. The team size, you can have business activity, so like what kind of stuff you're planning to do. And of course, nothing here is really going to change the rest of this tutorial. It's really just kind of geared to help you a little bit more further on down the road, just to give you some more resources that might be helpful. But otherwise, I'm just going to select whatever. It doesn't really matter with these. And do you sell online? We're going to say no for now. And I'm going to say finish. So really the important part is just getting through that. Like I said, it's not going to change a lot there. So then it'll bring us to this page right here, which is kind of an interesting structure for how they charge you for what you're doing. So you can see the free one has unlimited contacts. As I mentioned before, you're not going to pay for your contacts, but rather for the emails you send. And with the free version, you can have up to 300 emails sent per day. So for smaller email lists, that's really not a problem at all. And it's honestly very impressive as well that you can even do that. When we go to the light option, you'll see that it tells you $25 a month for 10,000 emails, but we have a slider so you can estimate how many emails you plan to send. So if you want to send like 60,000 emails, it's going to be $70 a month. Similarly, the premium option, you can slide this and see again what the rate is going to be for these different things. And of course, when you go down, you'll see that it does include slightly different things. So like for here, you get 5 landing pages. With this one, you get 1 extra landing page versus the free one, you don't actually get a landing page at all. So of course you can go to enterprise as well if you want to talk to them directly if you're a very large account. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to start off with light, select the light plan, because honestly, I feel like that's all we really need right now. I do really want that landing page. You can set this up for free, like I said, but that landing page does make a pretty big difference, at least to me. So I'm going to go down and say I'm not actually doing that many emails per month. We're going to say 10,000 to start, especially as a newer account here. And we're just going to go with $25 a month. I'm not going to do any of these add-ons right here because, I mean, the add-ons, like, yeah, they do some interesting things. It removes like the SendInBlue banner on the bottom, which I think is annoying. I don't know why they make you pay extra for that, an extra $12 a month. But regardless, that's what they do. We can also see that we pay monthly or annually. Paying annually does save you about 10%, as you can see right there. I'm going to pay monthly right now just because this is a tutorial and I'm not actually doing this for a long term. So we're going to continue without the add-on. And like I said, you definitely can add that if you really want to have better A to B testing, if you don't want that little SendInBlue thing on the bottom. But like I said, for now, I'm going to keep that in there because I'm not especially worried about that. Now we're going to have to add our credit card, so our payment method. So then at the end of that, you can go and say start using SendInBlue, and you'll see that we're pretty much now on their dashboard. I'm going to go through pretty much everything we have right here to kind of walk you through and kind of give you a good layout of the land. You'll see across the top, we have our banner, and this is really where most of the navigation is going to be done. From the very top, this little icon here will always just bring you right back to your home page, the dashboard here. If we click on campaigns, it'll bring us into our little campaign manager where we can go to email, templates, statistics. It's really, the left side is going to essentially be the same menu as we saw from the dashboard right here. Like clicking on email is the same as clicking on campaigns. We can then go over to automations, and this does give you a slightly different option where we'll talk about this later on in the video. You can create automations where you have a trigger, then you have an event, you can have another trigger and another event. You can have a really big, elaborate automation really where, for example, if somebody signs up for your email or your email list, they can then immediately get a welcome email. You can then wait 3 weeks and then send them another email. Or you can have all types of things like that that are automated, as the name obviously suggests. And again, very, very powerful. Rather than hiring an assistant to do that, you can do that very easily right within here. And then we can go to contacts as well. And contacts, of course, is where you're going to be managing your lists, your forms, your logs, your templates, all types of things like that. And I'll talk about all of this later on in the video. But with that being said, let's start off back on the dashboard. And on the dashboard, you'll see by default, they're going to give you a little bit of information here. They're going to tell you essentially a walkthrough of how you can get started with your campaigns to import all of your contacts, which we will do in just a second. But you'll also see that down here, we can see how many contacts we have, which is 1, just me. We can see how many people opened them, how many people clicked links, and how many were blacklisted as well. Down here, you will see other email campaigns. We don't have any right now, but eventually we will see that down there. Now, before I import my contacts, I want to make sure that I have the email, the sender, set up correctly. So if we go to the top right and click on my account, we can then go down to senders and IP, and within there, we're going to create a new sender, being me, to make sure that it's sending from the correct email. So right now, it is currently sending from tutorials@santrelmedia.com. If instead I wanted to send from mike@santrelmedia.com, we can easily do that by adding a new sender, and we could say from the sender is going to be Mike, and we could say the email is mike@santrelmedia.com, and we can save this. And of course, you are going to get an email in your inbox, and it's going to make you verify that. You can't just be like Jeff Bezos at Amazon.com. That obviously wouldn't work. You want to make sure that you're using your own email, and you'll have to go and actually activate that. So I'm going to close out of that. Right now, it's unverified because I'm not going to do that right now. But that's a very important step that you want to make sure that you have your sender right there. Similarly, you have domains. If you want to have other domains set up with here, you can go through that. I'm not going to do that right now, but some other things that we want to keep an eye on. Let's go back to the dashboard, and now we can actually go and import our contacts. I really just wanted to point that one little thing out. I think that is very important that you remember to create the right sender, so it's not just going from whatever email you use to make the account. Now, if we go to import all of your contacts, there's several ways you can actually import. You can copy and paste, or you can actually just upload the file. And from wherever, if you're using MailChimp or Wix or whatever you're using in another platform, you can actually usually download or export all of your contacts and then just upload that to here, usually as a CSV or an Excel file, or even just a text file. And once you do that, it should be really set up. You should be able to go and actually parse it. So let's actually do that right now. So if I click on upload a file, we can then drag and drop. So I have mine right here. We can then drag and drop my list over here. It's a CSV right now, and it's then going to have us map the data. Now, if you don't have a list, don't worry about it. It's not a problem because this is only going to take a couple seconds, and then everything else in this video will be the same anyway. So we're going to confirm that that's the file we have. And of course, it's going to show a whole bunch of different fields right here, and you can map them to certain things. Some of them do it by default. So if one of them is email addresses, and you're going to see here's a couple examples, then we want to map that to an attribute called email, which makes sense. First name, we can then click on the little drop down and say we want that to be first name. Last name, we can then map that to a last name. Address, maybe we don't care about the address. So this, we just do not import. Phone number, we don't import. We could go through all of these and just not import them, but certain things, if you go down, you'll see they do make sense and we do want to import them, but really from these, I don't actually care about that, so I'm just going to say do not import. This recognized the little IP addresses as a text message or as phone numbers, so I'm going to say do not import. But if you did have phone numbers, that would map over as well. So that's how you can really easily confirm the mapping and send over a lot of your contacts from some other list into this right here. And now we have our list of like a couple thousand people in there ready to go, so we can confirm the list. We're going to say confirm. Actually, we want to create a new list for this because these are sending new people in. I'm going to create a new list. We're going to call this this new list like imported contacts. There we go. So now we have a new list, and we can have a folder if we want to. I don't really care about a folder, so I'm just going to say create list, and it's in your first folder, which is just kind of an arbitrary name there. Now, we can go and confirm our list now, and we can update that. So I'm going to say, yes, I confirm. Here adheres to the conditions. So then that'll take you to this page right here, which is the contacts, and you have your list of contacts there. You can see we have all contacts. If you click the drop down, you can look at individual lists within your first folder, just some folder that was arbitrarily named. So imported ones, or just your first list, again, something that was automatically assigned, and this is just you in there. So now we have two different lists within a folder, and we have all of our contacts located right here. So already a really good start. And like I said, anyone who did not have an import, didn't have to import any contacts, you ended up right here, and now we're ready to go. Everyone's back on the same page there. So now that we have our contacts, the next thing we want to talk about are, like I said, lists. So for anybody that didn't import contacts, the way you'd add a new list is to just go and create or click add new list within contacts there, and you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to call this one list number 2. And we're going to create an empty list right now. And then in the future, when we have maybe a different form, we can send people into this list. So for example, maybe you'll have one that is like a certain blog. Maybe another one might be a different website that you're running. Maybe one's a YouTube channel. And you can have people go to different lists just to better organize and decide which campaigns or which emails are being sent to which group of people. Now, on the left, if we go down to forms, that's really the next thing that we really want to talk about here. So a form is going to be how somebody can subscribe to your email list. And there's different ways you could do that. We could have a full landing page, or as we're doing right here, it could just be a form that maybe you embed in your website or really anything of that nature. And there are 3 different options here. So subscription, unsubscription, and updating your profile. So starting off with subscription, that's the one that probably most people need in the beginning. We'll go and create a subscription form. Now, the subscription form needs a name. We're just going to call this subscription form 1. Subscription form 1. And I'm going to say next. And then we can design this form, and it can really look however you want. You can drag and drop these things. So if I want more text in here, I could click and drag text down there. And within that, we can go and edit and say like welcome or I don't know, whatever you want. We can say thank you. And maybe this, instead of being there, we want to click and drag that to the bottom. We're just going to say thank you at the end, because we're happy that they joined our list. So very easy to do. If we click the little back icon on the top, you'll see that there are a lot of options. You can add images in here. It's really kind of a simple drag and drop editor where you can add dividers, images, attributes, single choice checkboxes, things like that. So maybe the checkbox, we can click and drag that to right here. We can make this a required field, and of course we can have some help text if you want. And so the help text, of course, you can go and customize that right here. And we could say like this checkbox is mandatory for subscription. And we could change what you're selecting right there. So this could be, yes, I want to receive. Yes, I want to receive emails is maybe a good thing to put right there. Then if we click on this one right here, again, this is email, and so the attribute is going to be email, which makes sense. That's one that we already have right now. So we have email, we've got yes, we want to receive it, but maybe we want some other things on here as well in this form. So maybe we want like somebody's name, so we can go and click and drag attribute right here. So we could say enter the value. Maybe this is going to be phone number, or actually this one can be last name. We'll do last name, and of course, let's do one more that's going to be first name. So we'll go attribute and say right here, what is your first name? And this one from the dropdown can be first name. Now we can do phone number on there, or if you want something else, you can actually create a new attribute altogether. Say, for example, if you wanted to know somebody's birthday, and then you want to send them maybe like a discount on their birthday, clicking the little create new attribute will bring you over to this right here. And then from here, we can say create new attribute. The name of this is going to be birthday. And then this could be a text, it could be a date, a number, whatever you want. Boolean is like yes or no, just a simple 1 or a 0. So this is going to be a date. We want to know somebody's birthday, so we can send them a discount or like some kind of coupon on their birthday, and we're going to say okay. Now there we go. It's successfully added. So if we close out of this back here, we should be able to add a birthday one. So if we go back and we go and drag an attribute over, put this one maybe right below last name, right there. And this one, we could go and make this, okay, so it's actually not updated right now. If we refresh it, it would eventually allow us to do that. But I'm gonna just delete this one for now, and we're not gonna add birthday. But like I said, if you refresh this, you should be able to do that. Now I'm gonna say next. And again, this is a very plain looking form, very, very basic and simple. It does recommend that we add reCAPTCHA, which you can do if you want to make sure you don't have fake people showing up in your list. I'm not gonna do that right now. But now we have our list ready to go. You can choose where, or this form ready to go. You're gonna choose which list it's actually sending people to. I'm gonna send this to list number 2. And you know what, I'll send it to my first list as well. So anybody who signs up through this little form right here, their information will be sent to these 2 lists, but not the imported ones. Then we can go to next. And from here, we can have some settings. So if we want to have like a confirmation email, no confirmation email, simple one, double confirmation email, you have a lot of options like that. I'm going to say no confirmation email for now because later, maybe we want to have a welcome email set up with an automation that looks a little nicer than this right here. So I'm going to say next. And from here, it's going to ask if we want any kind of special messages. So success message looks good to me. If there's an invalid user, so if something goes wrong, that's the message we want there. An error or an empty field that is a mandatory one, we'll have that as the message right there. And of course, you can update these however you want. If you add like a smiley face or something, literally anything you want to add, you can add, and these are going to be your custom messages. Now, if we say next, it'll bring us down here, and this is going to be the link, really ugly link there. And this is going to be the link to essentially our form. So if we go to a new page and we paste that, you'll see that it'll bring us to this little form here, your little sign up form, which is easy to use, very simple to share. I recommend if you're using like WordPress, maybe use something like Pretty Links, for example, to wrap that and make it look a little nicer. Or we can go into settings and actually use a domain, which I mentioned earlier in this video, so it's not showing up as something like that right there. Now, that's pretty much all we want to know as far as setting up our forms and our list. So far, pretty much everything with contacts is ready to go. We know how to import contacts. We know how to make lists with our contacts and organize them. And we now have forms which are able to essentially attract new contacts through whatever social media or blog or whatever media outlet you have. Sending them to the forms and then sending that over to the lists is a great way to manage your contacts. If we go down to settings, you'll see a couple additional things right here. And so, if you want to go through these, you can do that on your own time. But for this tutorial, I'm not going to touch on that right now. Now, before we go into campaigns and automation, meaning essentially sending emails or text messages, I really want to point out one important thing, and that is this little plus on the top right, really the top center of your screen. If we click on that, there are a couple other things that you can enable across the top bar. So if for some reason you're not seeing transactional or if you're not seeing automation, you can go and click on that plus and go down, and these are the apps that you have enabled. So transactional emails, I don't really want to deal with that. I don't really care about that on the top. So I'm going to go and disable that, and that means that that will not be showing up on the top anymore. Similarly, if I really want SMS campaigns, I can go and click and turn that on, and that will show up on the top. If we want landing pages, if we want to manage our inbox, our chat, and I'm going to turn all these on right now just to give you guys a quick idea of what's going on with these, and then you can see them on the top. So again, Facebook there, transactional SMS, we could do all of that on the top. And again, these are more of the really powerful things you can do with SendInBlue that I really like. So for example, you have CRM on here. You actually have a full chat feature as well. You have an inbox so you can reply and really manage a lot of your emails, not just send them out, but actually manage them with an inbox. And I think a lot of that is very powerful. Now, not everything is available for the free platform. That's why, again, I really recommended getting that little upgrade there so you have the paid one. And so, for example, if we want to go and see like landing pages, I think that's one that you definitely do need a paid platform for. Now, once we have those, like I said, we're going to touch on campaigns and automations in a second, but just kind of touching on them. I'm not going to go too in depth on these, but chat, for example, it kind of walks you through that. If you say get started with chat, it's a great way to kind of embed this in your website. You can have automations with this. You can do a lot of stuff with chat and kind of overall just more engage with potential customers, answer questions, and do things of that nature. If we go to inbox, again, this is going to be where we're getting emails or replies, stuff like that. Manage it very easily. And once you set this up, I think it's a very powerful tool to have everything kind of in one location. It's just a really nice thing to have. Similarly, if you go over to CRM, another great tool to have on here. It's taking a second to load right now. So CRM brings you to this page here, and this allows you to do a lot of other very powerful things within here. But let's actually go back now. Like I said, I've been kind of pushing this off for a little bit. Let's go to the campaigns and actually start sending an email to our audience. So if we go back to campaigns, it gives us, like I said, those three little things, or that really full bar on this left now from templates, SMS, Facebook ads. All those apps are now showing up there. Again, if you don't see them, it's because we didn't click on the plus and actually enable those. Once you do, they will show up on the left side. But emails, let's go and create our first email campaign. This is most likely the most basic thing you're doing on here, most likely the most common thing you'll be doing on here. So if you're sending out an email campaign, you can set that up by clicking on this little blue button. We'll name the campaign, choose the subject line, the preview text, and the from email. So let's do that first. Campaign name, maybe we're gonna call this like campaign number 1. And the subject line could be something like check out our new fall collection. The preview text is going to essentially be, when you see the email, you have the title, and then right below that you have like a quick little preview text right there. It's going to show you something. Usually, by default, it's going to be the beginning of the email, but when you're using something like SendInBlue here, you're able to actually choose what the preview text is. It doesn't have to be text that even shows up anywhere in the email, so that's a great way to kind of entice people to open that in the first place. So, our new fall. So we can say something like that. The from email, like I said, we now have 2 different froms. One of them was not verified, so we're gonna be stuck with the current one, which is just my company, tutorials at santrelmedia.com. That's really not the best way to do that, but the from name on there, we can choose and say it's going to be from Mike. There's also advanced options if you really want to change some other things as well. I'm not gonna do any of that right now, and we're just gonna go over to next step. Now, when you're actually sending or creating the email, you have 3 different options here. If you have code, which most likely you probably don't, but you click on that right there. The rich text editor is going to be essentially, like if you're writing an email in Gmail, for example, that's going to be what this editor is. Where you can add links, you can add bold text and stuff like that, but it's not going to be a really robust way to make a nice looking kind of web page style email. Instead, the drag and drop editor is going to be what we'll be doing for that. Now, you can also have templates, and I'll talk about templates later on in the video, but starting off with this email right here, we can actually go and see that by default, it's going to show up with a couple little placeholders for how they think we might want this email to look. Now you'll see, this is what I was talking about, how this looks nothing like when you're sending an email from Gmail. This is obviously more drag and drop oriented, a lot easier to build a more complex email. And so, for example, if we go to the top, we can click on this and add our logo. We can drag and drop the image for our logo right there. We can click on this and edit our title. We can edit this image or this entire little section here. And so it's kind of similar to if you've ever made a website with, say, Wix, for example, or Weebly. It's a really similar layout where on the left side we have these elements that we can then drag and drop into these little sections. So this right here is one big section, as you can see with that little dotted outline. And if I didn't want this section, or let's say maybe I didn't want this section, I just click on the little trash can. So if I click on the trash can, I'll just delete that entire section, and now that's gone. If we wanted to move a section, so say if we wanted this one higher up, we can click on the little reposition and drag that higher up. Similarly, we could duplicate it. So if I really like this section, we can click on the 2 pieces of paper, which will duplicate that, or we can click on the pencil icon, and this will give us some settings where we can really start to customize that as you see on this side. Now, I don't really care about that right now. Instead, let's just say we want to add some space or maybe a button or something like that into this one right here. So if we click on X, make sure on the left side you're seeing this, the elements. You can click on, let's just say space. We'll click and drag some space to right here. And then below the space, we can go and drag a button down there. So we're going to add a button down there. And above that, we'll have maybe some text. And so we're starting to build this out. You're going to see essentially when you're building your email, it's going to look something like this. And this is kind of just something that I recommend you do. And you kind of just keep experimenting with this over time. You'll figure out how to make this, overall look better and really get used to what these things really do. If you want to have like a nice little combination of elements, this is really the only other thing I want to point out. We can click and drag like a little contents thing right here, a little box, and it does save you some time. It gives you like an image on the left, some text, a title, a button, a really common combination that you're probably going to want to be using. And then of course, the other things, the little footer elements, if you want to add like a copyright thing, some social things, most of those have already been added down here, but that's what you'd see essentially right there. And then we can go and add view in browser if that's not already on here. And that way somebody can click on that and open it in their browser in case their Gmail or whatever their mail app is not showing this in a nice readable way. So that's pretty much everything I want to show you about how to create your email when you're going to send out a campaign. It's really not that hard to do, and you're going to get used to editing this and making it look better. But keep in mind, as you make it, not everybody's opening this on the same on the same device. So we're looking at a desktop right now. But if we want to see this on a tablet, you can click on the little tablet icon there. It'll give you a preview of that. So that's our desktop preview. We can go to the mobile preview as well. So any one of these, it does take a second to open because I'm recording my screen right now. But you can scroll down and see what they look like. So obviously this right here had the image on the left, but in mobile, it's going to put the image above the title. So maybe that's not what you like, and maybe you want to edit that. And it's always important to look at these before you send your email. Okay, so once you're done building your whole email, you can actually go up to the top and say save. I recommend saving more than once while you're building it, of course. But when you're done with that, you can actually go and send a test email, or as you can see there, you can load a saved version. If you changed something you didn't like to, that's essentially your undo right there. But sending a test email, I think, is a really important way to not only see what it really looks like on your phone or on your tablet or on another laptop, but also to see how it looks when it shows up in your inbox, or if it doesn't show up in your inbox at all. There's a chance that maybe when you send this, it'll somehow be flagged as spam and it'll go to your spam box, which is why, again, it's really important to send a test email to something other than the email set up with your SendInBlue. So right here, I set this up with tutorials at santrelmedia.com. I don't want to send it to that. Instead, I would send it to maybe my personal email or something like that, and I would be able to check if it was sent to a spam box. Now, if it was, of course, there's a lot of things you can do, and of course, that would be an entire separate video to talk about how to make sure you don't end up in a spam box, but just keep in mind, that's how you want to be testing that. Then we can go and actually save and quit, and then we'll be able to send this out with some other conditions in just a second. Okay, so now it brings us the preview like we had before. I'm going to click on next step, and here it's going to say, which list do we want to send this to? So I'm going to say, just send it to my first list, which coincidentally is just me right now. And we could say don't send it to unengaged contacts, which is really interesting that you have that filter, which essentially means that SendInBlue knows who doesn't open your email and they'll just send it to only the engaged contacts, which theoretically might improve your open ratio if it's all going to Gmail and Gmail knows that the people that get it open it, right? Maybe it's going to be less likely to show up in your spam. Maybe just like that's a theory right there, but there are plenty of reasons that you wouldn't want to send it to unengaged contacts. Okay, so then we can click on update recipient count. Right now it has one contact that's going to be receiving this. And other than that, I'm not going to select those things. We can go to next step and we'll just have a confirmation. So it's ready to go. We're ready to either schedule it or send it right now. So if we scroll down, you'll see that we're ready to go. I'm going to click on schedule, and maybe this is going out, like I said, you could do it now, but maybe it's going out like tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or something. Or you could say send it at the best time, which needs a more premium feature. You have to upgrade to get that. And this is going to essentially be like, as you have more and more data, as you send out more email campaigns, SendInBlue is going to keep track of when the emails are opened and actually let you know what the best time to send it out is to make sure you have the maximum number of people looking at their email, opening it. You have the best open ratio, the best response to your email, and overall just a more effective campaign. So I'm just going to say send it now, actually, probably easiest thing to do. And we'll say continue, and now that is actually being sent out right now. So we'll say confirm, and it's ready to go. That email is being sent to just me. So once you clicked on that, it's queued, and if for some reason you decide like, uh-oh, you didn't mean to do that, you can then just go down and suspend it and say that you actually don't want that campaign to be sent out. So that's how you send an individual email. Now, if we go back here, one other thing I want to point out, if we go back up to email, is that we have some more options. Besides just templates and emails for individual campaigns, we can do some more advanced stuff. So if we go to create an email campaign, you actually have the option to do an A/B test. So if you want to make sure that you're really optimizing your click-through rate, you can try two different things side by side and see what the results are and kind of automatically select the best version and send that out. So you do have to upgrade, unfortunately, to get this. I already upgraded to the light plan, but if you upgrade to premium, that's where you really have access to this one as well. So I think that's something that, again, might be worthwhile as you start to really grow your email campaign or email presence here. It can really help you to improve and at the very least learn and get a better intuition for what works really well and what is attractive for people to open. So if we click on templates, you'll actually be able to create an entire template, and these are going to be used later on in automation. So if you want to have like a welcome email or something like that, you could do all of that right here. And I'm not going to go through actually building this entire thing because it is so simple and it's so similar to what we saw with the email campaign. But if we go to new template on the top right, you'll be able to name it, choose a subject line, the preview text, the from email, the company, and things, or the from name, and things like that. And when you actually go to the next step, the builder is going to be essentially identical to what we saw with the email campaign. So I'm not going to go through that, but keep in mind it is something that if you have an automation, which I'm going to show you in just a second, this is something that you will want to do. Set up those templates to use them in your campaigns or in your automations. So that's really, we've talked about a lot so far. We talked about the contacts, we talked about your inbox, we talked about getting these different apps and plugins showing up on the top. We talked about creating and sending an email, creating and sending a template. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is actually create an automation, which is one of the most powerful things you have on here, a really fantastic tool that I highly recommend everybody uses for really whatever the purpose might be. And if we go to automation, you'll see that we have quite a few options. Now, the first time you use it, it might not look exactly like this. You're going to see a big button in the middle that says create a workflow. Instead, mine is up in the little corner because I created one just a couple minutes ago. But if we go to create a workflow, we can click on that. And it gives us a couple presets right here, some kind of pre-made ones. It could be like a product purchase. So once somebody purchases, you're giving a confirmation. It could be a welcome email when somebody joins your list. It could be an anniversary date. Like I said, once somebody, it could be an anniversary of when they joined. It could be their birthday. It could be something like that based on those dates. Or it could be abandoned cart. Maybe when somebody didn't order something on your website and they put it in your cart, and maybe somebody knocked on the door and they went over and opened the door and they forgot what they were doing. They didn't buy what was in their cart. We can also go and see some other ones, some other popular ones on the left: improving engagement, increasing traffic, increasing revenue, things like that. A lot of other options for how you can set up your workflow. Or what I'm going to do right now is create a custom workflow. So on the top right, select create custom workflow. And I'm just going to call this workflow number 1. And maybe this is going to be a welcome email sequence. And then you can actually allow or not allow contacts to receive this more than once. For this specific one as a welcome email, I don't want them to receive it more than once. So we're going to say start. And here it's going to allow us to choose a trigger and then an action. Now, the trigger, they're calling entry point, is what SendInBlue calls it. And if we click on the plus, we have some options here. Now, we have a lot more than just 4 options, but really 4 categories for what it's going to be. So website activity, you're going to see you have a couple options down here. When somebody visits a page, and maybe this is like your cart page, maybe this is like a certain product page, something like that. We can have a contact submits a form, or we can have other things on here as well. So maybe like email activity, so like all types of things like that, contact details. I'm actually going to go with the contact submits a form. If this is a welcome email, we want anytime somebody submits a form, we're going to say okay. That's the trigger. So once somebody submits a form, we're going to do something after that. And you can add multiple things as well. So if we wanted a second entry point, we can have like some email activity or something like that that would also trigger the same automation. Of course, for a welcome email, that doesn't necessarily make sense. So I'm really just going to stick with just one entry point for this automation. We can then click plus, and from here we can have a ton of different options. You can send an SMS, so a text message. You can send an email, a notification, like a lot of different things right here. And there's tons and tons of options, really endless options for how you can use automations. So I'm just going to say send an email. And remember earlier in this video when I showed you where the templates were, this is exactly where they get used. So on that drop-down menu, you see all the templates we currently have. Now, I didn't make one in this video. We're just using the ones that kind of came pre-included with this. And I'm just going to use this one right here. Obviously, you'd want to customize your own and make your own template for the welcome email, but that's what I'm going to use right now. So we could say all these little checkboxes, I'm just going to not use these right now. So we're going to say OK. And then after that, let's just say we want to send a sequence of welcome emails. So one is going to say welcome, and then maybe a couple days later, you're going to send something else, and then maybe a week later, you can send something else after that. So I'm going to click the little plus icon, and we're going to add another condition. So we can add a delay. We could wait until something happens. We can add an if else, or we could do an A/B split. So we're going to first start with adding a delay. So we can add a delay of, let's just say days. We're going to say 1 week. We can say 1 week later, after they first get the welcome email, we can then send them maybe like a little promotion, maybe a discount, because they were interested in us before, and if they hadn't already purchased it, we can send them something like, hey, the $25 discount that we gave you is about to run out. And so here we can add another email. So we're going to send another email to them. And this one, I mean, again, I didn't make these templates because I don't want to bore you guys too much, but we could just say, pretend this one was like a discount email. Obviously, it's not. It's some other template right now, but we're going to say OK. And then after that, we can add another condition. So after that, maybe we could say, let's wait until something happens. So besides just a delay, you can have actual things happen. So you can say, then wait until there's some website activity. Now, I don't have any cookies tracking my website right now. I didn't actually integrate that with any domain, so I can't actually go through and do this. But for now, I mean, keep in mind that is something that you are able to do if you're really interested in having some more integrations more closely with your website, with your domain. And remember, I said if you go to your settings, you can really configure that very easily there. But let's just say this is the workflow that I want. Maybe a welcome email, then we wait a week, and then we send them a follow-up email, maybe with a discount or something like that. We can then go and activate this workflow. Of course, we have a couple of icons here. We can see the stats on this. We can see some workflow examples, or we can test our workflow. I highly recommend you test it before you activate it. But honestly, I'm just going to activate it anyway right now because this is just a tutorial. Now, if we go up to the top, you'll see that the email or this workflow is ready to go. When somebody joins our list, they're going to get that little welcome email. A week later, they're going to get another email from us as well. And so that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you as far as creating and sending out any kind of marketing material. Once you send it out, going to statistics is going to be a very, very valuable way to go back and see what's working, what's not working, how many people are subscribed, where those subscriptions came from, how the email and SMS campaigns are going, and a lot of things like that. So obviously in the beginning, we don't have any information right here now, but as you come back, you will be able to see the click rate, the open rate, and the unsubscription rate based on the dates, based on all types of different things. And I think that's a really valuable tool that you should be coming back to really see what's working and what's not. But if you found this video helpful, please leave a comment below and share this with a friend, anybody who you think might be interested in setting up their own email campaigns or SMS campaigns or really anything from SendInBlue. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, like I said, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm Mike O'Brien from Santrel Media. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.